Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Serene View. My name is Serene and I'm the host of the Serene View. And this week we have another constructive argument for you. And today I am really happy to have finally gotten yet another Singaporean after so many weeks. So Wah Yuen is joining me. Wah Yuen is a fellow coach, has been coaching for over a decade. He is the man with the answer to the life, universe, and everything. So, Wah Yuen, would you like to introduce yourself? Yes.
So, hi everyone. Thank you, Serene, for the opportunity. In addition to what Serene has mentioned, I'm also a husband, a father, a pet owner. Right. So I've been in the leadership development field for 30 plus years, coaching in the last 10 to 12 years. Thoroughly enjoyed it and hope to share and talk about some of my experiences. So, Serene, what you wanted to know the answer? Did you want to know
Yes,
the
I want
answer?
to know the answer. What's the answer to the great question of life, the universe, and everything?
The great answer to life, the universe, and everything, which I pondered for a long time. The answer I've concluded is actually 42.
Oh, what's it 42?
Yes.
7 million years you have thought about it, right?
I'm
No,
not
for
I'm
those
not
of you
that
who have
old,
no
Serene. I'm
idea,
not that old. But for
those of
those
you
who
who have
are
no idea what we're
listening,
talking about.
yeah,
Yes. No, but seriously, for those of them who have no idea what we're talking about, actually it also means you're not that old. This comes from a very old book called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So if you guys have no idea what we're saying, go and check it
absolutely.
out. All right. Yes. So today, Wah Yuen is going to kind of talk to us about something very simple, which is coaching, right? And is coaching really just hype? I mean, like in the last 2 years, coaching has just kind of exploded all over the world. Obviously, Wah Yuen has been coaching long before it was trendy, right? So way before
Hey, I
it
am
was.
I am a trendy person, Serene. Come on.
So sorry, I only started coaching, in the last few years. So I only after it became trendy. But Wah Yuen's been coaching long before it was trendy. And I guess we just want to kind of come and discuss a little bit about, what is this thing about coaching? I mean, is it like, is it just hype? Is it real? Does it actually work? But I think before we start, we should start with what is coaching? So would you like to tell us, what do you think is coaching?
Well, I mean, there are so many definitions out there, right? The wonderful thing about Google is you can just do a Google search, you can find the definitions. But I guess over the years that I've been doing it, there are a few things that have resonated with me. So I won't be able to provide like a soundbite definition. So I'm just gonna share some of the aspects that have resonated with me and that I have used as kind of my North Star. Okay, one of which I believe that coaching is a co-creative journey that I would embark on with my coachee. So we do it together. It's a journey, and the journey is where the power is. It's not about the final destination, although that is important for the coachee, and the coachee determines what that final destination is. And my role really in walking that journey with the coachee is to help them experience the journey, reflect on the journey, take insights from the journey, and to continuously apply and learn and relearn so that they end up as a better version of themselves or achieve whatever they are wanting to achieve, and they know why they want to achieve that. So it's about that clarity of thought as well. It's a long one, Serene. I apologize.
Yes. Okay. So, but if you talk about it, I mean, the way that you say it is co-created. It's a
Yeah.
journey together with the coachee to create something better for them. I think that defines most of our best relationships, right? I mean,
Mm.
I hope you are. I know you're married. I hope you are married to a woman that helps you become a better person. I hope I'm married to a man that helps you become a better
Absolutely.
person. Right? I mean, what's the
Yeah.
difference?
No difference. So I'll say coaching is not a role, coaching is a process. And I would agree with you. We have all kinds of friends, right? I have friends who fulfill different needs. So sometimes if I want to go and party, I look for certain friends. If I want to have a shoulder to cry on, I look for certain friends. If I want supportive friends who I know will be in my corner, fighting my fight with me, encouraging me, affirming me, telling me what I'm doing is right, I will go to certain friends. And there are friends whom, like you said, while they don't call themselves a coach, they actually provide me the insights that a coach would, because they're asking me the right questions for me to discover what I'm about, why I'm doing certain things, why I'm not doing certain things, what is it that I want to achieve. They're helping me get clarity. They are not telling me what I should be clear about. They're helping me walk that journey with more confidence, with more clarity. Sometimes they challenge me. They ask me, is that really working for you? So I absolutely agree with you. A friend can be a coach.
So would you then say that a professional coach is like a paid friend? So you are a paid friendship, right?
Okay, so you could say that. You could say that. Yeah. I think there's one difference. In a friendship, I want to maintain that friendship. So sometimes I may um, I may make a judgment call in terms of what I would say or not say, because my desire to maintain the friendship supersedes everything else. And I think that would be one distinction of a professional coach. There is no need to remain a friend. So I will be honest. I will be authentic. I will say what I think needs to be said or what I think you need to hear. Um, and if it affects our relationship in any way, that's fine, because that's what I'm paid to do. I'm paid to help you get clarity. And I feel that to help you get clarity, these are the things I need to bring up. As a friend, I may not, because I might be afraid that if I bring it up, you don't want to be my friend anymore.
No, but I've heard so much about the relationship between the coach and the coachee, right? So you're almost like saying as though it doesn't really matter, right? I don't care if I don't have a relationship with my coachee, if the relationship doesn't matter. Whereas with a friend, the relationship matters.
It's a
But that's not
different
what I've been hearing.
relationship.
I've been hearing like, coach and coachee relationship very important.
It is. It is very important. And I will say that what is important, and the same things will also be important in certain friendships. I hope most, if not all, friendships. I think what is important in a coach-coachee relationship, amongst other things, is one of trust, respect, honesty, candidness. I think those are important parts of a relationship, because without that, then there is no safe space for both parties to experiment and play with. There's no safe space to be vulnerable and be honest with oneself, um, because there's no air of judgment. Because very often we are afraid to put ourselves out there because we are afraid that we're going to be judged.
Okay. I'm just this is like a technical issue, right? We didn't have this just now. This is always what happens. When you go live, technical problems happen. But there's a slight whining sound at the back of when you speak, like a very
Oh,
high
is
pitched
it?
whining sound. Not
Okay.
sure if the rest of you can hear it or is it just me. So let me know if you also hear it. But I think it's just if you just use a different mic, that should be fine. It only happens when you speak. But anyway, so we apologize if this sound is bothering you. I assure you that it did not occur in the sound check, and it only happens when you go live, because obviously Murphy is the ruler and controller of this world. Yes, so
So let me
um,
so let me do a sound check. I'm speaking
yeah,
now. Is the whining sound still there?
no, now it's
No?
okay.
Okay. So I've done something. So maybe it's because
Oh,
of that.
now it's come back actually.
Oh dear.
So
Should
only when you make important points do you get
oh
a
dear.
whining sound. No, that's
Okay.
okay. Whatever happens, happens. But what I wanted to really say is this, right? Which is when you talk about trust, transparency,
Yeah.
safe space, and so on.
Yeah.
I find it hard to believe that there's more safe space with a stranger than there is with, let's say, a close friend. So, for example, I'm married as well. And I have friends who I've known for most of my life, 30, 40 years. And,
Yeah.
if I think about it that way, right, why would I have more of a safe space with a complete stranger, like a coach, whom I know nothing about, who knows nothing about me, than I would with somebody that's really close?
I don't know, but I've experienced the same thing that you have. I have had coaches telling me that they themselves are very surprised when they find themselves sharing things with me that they don't even share with their loved ones, which surprises me. Yeah, I don't explore why that happens, but there seems to be something in the relationship where they feel that I can say this to this person. Maybe because there's less at stake. Maybe because they feel that they're not being judged. Maybe because they feel that I don't know, they just feel more comfortable saying that. I mean, think of the classic example of a barman, bar lady. Yeah, we got to be careful about that nowadays. Huh? So you're sitting at the bar, having your drink, and you start sharing your life story with the person that poured you the drink, whom you don't know from Adam or Eve. Why does that happen? Okay, maybe you're drunk. That's why it happens. Yeah.
So how much
No.
alcohol do you give your coaches?
I'm a teetotaler, so no alcohol.
No, but I wanted to kind of also explore this idea, right, of a
Yeah,
safe space, of
yeah,
being able to bear ourselves or bear our souls to strangers.
yeah.
Um, I think in many ways, probably this idea of not being judged or not having to wear the image that we have always had to wear to whoever, our family, our friends, and so on. I think that's a big part of this, right? And actually, this whole rise of coaching in the last couple of years, if you really think about it, is quite sad, right? Because what it really is telling us is that for many people in their lives, they don't have anyone safe that they can bear themselves to. They don't have this like one really good or true friend or loved one, who can be there for them, not judge them, they can feel safe with, and who can actually like kind of support them. Right? I don't know whether this is what but this is at least kind of when I'm talking to you, that's what I'm hearing, right? That because we no longer have this in our lives, now we got to go out and pay people to do it for us.
Yeah. In an ironic sense of way, I think you could put it that way. Why is it that I mean, going back to the example that I shared, right? Why is it that they are telling me that they are sharing with me stuff that they don't even share with their wives or husbands? Why is that so? Is it because there's insufficient trust that's happening between them? I don't know. But yes, it's quite sad that they can only share this with someone whom they don't know from long time ago. It's part of this arrangement. Yeah.
But the kind of stuff that they are sharing with you, right? I mean, would they? I don't know. It sounds really like kind of serious, right? I mean, something that I'm sharing with you that I don't even share with my family. Would it be stuff that you need a therapist or somebody professional to do? Because quite obviously, coaches aren't that, right?
Correct. Yeah. Absolutely. Coaches aren't therapists. Right. So I mean, they may share that they are struggling with certain things. Now, as a coach, as you would know, we take that, we acknowledge that, and our main focus is how do we move from that? How do we move forward? Right? If what they're facing is so entrenched that it inhibits them from moving forward until they resolve that issue, then I think that's where your line of thinking is we will need to refer them to a therapist because it's about exploring and undoing the narratives and the past that has happened to them that is holding them um, back. So our focus really is helping them move forward. And if they can't do that without the aid of therapy, then we should say let's pause the coaching, get that sorted out, and then we can move forward. It's just like what I hear some uh, psychiatrists and what is it now?
Psychologist.
Psychologists and psychiatrists,
Yes.
right? So sometimes they will work together, right? Because the psychologists say, well, I think you might need psychiatric help, you might need some medication, because that might help us then move our journey forward.
Okay.
So
So
it's
I
kind
guess
of that relationship, yeah.
in a way, therapy is almost a treatment, right? It's a treatment for your mental health, the way that, I mean, any other treatment is for your physical health. Whereas coaching, I mean, this is my understanding, and I don't know whether you agree to it, but coaching isn't a treatment. It's
Not
more like a really good in-depth conversation, right? A really good conversation. That's what it is, right? We are paying for conversations that we want to have, And if you look in the past, I mean, there's nothing very unusual in that sense, because there have always been, almost organizations, whether it be saloons during the medieval ages, or kings engaging people to have engage in conversations with them. So this idea of a conversation, or even the whole idea of an advisor, right? And since I'm on the topic of advisor, I think one of the major objections I get is always this, right? You have never been in my industry. Maybe you have never even been in my role, right? I've never been a CEO of a major company. What gives you the right, to tell me what to do? Or what gives you the right to even be telling me what to do? Not even be telling me, but like be trying to help me to do what I want to do, right?
Yeah. And I think in that context, if people are looking for advice, that's probably where we differentiate coaching from mentoring, right? So as a coach, we are not there to give advice. We are there to help you explore. So we will ask you questions to help you dig into a better understanding of your environment, of your situation. And if you don't have that, then it's a question of where can you find out more about that? Where are your resources? Who can you talk to? So, and it's an interesting point, because there have been times where my coaches are from the same industry or from the same domain, which I have. And I have to actually curb myself from giving advice, because I've walked that path before, and that's something that I would like to share and bring benefit to the other person. But I always have to keep in mind that whatever path I walked, even if it's the same domain, it's my path, it's my story, which could be entirely different from the person I'm talking to. What I could put on the table is, what you are sharing kind of reminds me of something that perhaps I have gone through, or I've observed other people going through. And then at the end of that narrative is, what part of that resonated with you? Did it mean anything to you? Did it trigger any thoughts from you with regards to your own situation? I'm not giving advice. I'm giving a perspective. I'm giving a point of view. I'm sharing an experience. Everyone's life is different.
I was just going to remark on that, because I thought, like a lot of the times when we think about paying somebody, right? We are paying
Yeah.
somebody for a service. So, like, I go to a therapy in order to get medical treatment, right? I go to, perhaps a mentor or even a business consultant in order to get a solution or an idea. I mean, like, a solution, a plan of what to do next.
Yeah.
But in that sense, I think the payment for coaching is very unusual, because actually you are not paying for them to specifically give you anything like a treatment, an advice, a plan, a direction, or any of those things, right? We are really paying to explore our own minds, if you want to look at it that way, right? Almost
In
this
a
is a
sense,
way of saying, right? In
yeah.
a sense, right?
Yeah.
I'm paying to, hear myself talk.
Kind of, yeah.
To have
And
someone listen to me talk, right?
someone to listen to you talk, and while listening to you talk, asking you and prodding you to explore perhaps certain directions which you may not have thought about, right? So it's encouraging you to explore, and see where that goes. Or perhaps it's asking you questions to uncover some layers behind what your initial thoughts are. and spending more time delving into some of the questions or strategies that I may have thought through.
Right. And
So
this
in
really,
that context, yes, a friend can do that. Of
yeah,
course.
that's what I was going to
Can.
say.
Can.
Paid friend, okay? That's what a coach is, paid friend. So you can't say that the best friends aren't paid. But I guess like it goes back again, right? Now that we talk about paid friendship, to this
Yeah.
whole idea of, almost of what is the relationship, right? What's the relationship? Because there are so many times where people come to me and they say, "Oh, I've had coaching before and it doesn't work. It didn't work." Or, one of my friends, one of my relatives, or whoever it is has had coaching before, it didn't work. I got to
Yeah.
tell you this honestly, that I've had quite a few different coaches in my life. And yeah, some of them just didn't work. Have you
And
had that experience yourself? Like,
I had
with a
had that
coach?
experience with coaches, right? So some work, some don't work, some are transformed, some really stop after a few sessions because they say it's not working out for me. And I think that's fine because each of us have a different makeup, both from the coach and the coachee point of view. There is that relationship that needs to be formed, right? So there has to be some chemistry happening between the coachee and the coach, just like a friend and a best friend. Why does someone choose one to be a best friend over other friends? Because maybe there's that deeper connection. There's that thing that resonates between the two of them. There's a feeling of safety. I can trust this person more, whatever it is. So because we are individuals with our own characteristics, with our own styles, that chemistry needs to happen, and then it will proceed. So I have experienced things that work, things that didn't work, things that partially work, because different people respond differently to different coaching styles, perhaps different personalities. Some people need a little bit more of this, some people need a little bit more of that in order to move forward. I may not be that right person to help them to move forward. So I think, like I say, for people who say it didn't work, I can understand it. It probably didn't work with that particular person. It could work with another person. But to say that it didn't work as a blanket statement, I think you are depriving yourself of
No, but
something
I,
meaningful.
I actually was going to ask you exactly that, right? Will there be people or situations where coaching as a modality, coaching as a whole will just not work? Like, if you are in this situation, like just like forget about it, go and do something else.
You mean for the individual?
I mean, let's just say, will there be certain types of people or even certain situations, whether it's situations or individuals, where
Yeah.
it's just not going to work? This is just not going to work.
I mean, if I were to respond it with a one-word answer, my short answer would be yes. Yeah. What are those situations? The thought that comes to my mind is if I am not willing to do anything differently and I just want to pursue what my current thought patterns and behaviors are, then what's the way? It's like me signing up for a gym membership. And then whatever the personal trainer says, okay, they've taken my measurements, they say, oh, okay, you want to work on this, then this is what I suggest you might want to explore doing. And I refuse to do those exercises, or I refuse to do any of that. There's no way I'm going to improve. And then what am I going to do? Am I going to blame it on the gym? I say, oh, that gym is lousy. I signed up for it, and then I go there and look at me, my body, no change, because I wasn't willing to do the hard work. At the end of the day, in my first few sessions with the coach, it's always about, I'm not doing the heavy lifting,
Isn't that what they're paying you for?
No, they're not paying me to do the heavy lifting because, you see, if I go back to the gym analogy, if I sign up with a personal trainer, and the personal trainer is the one doing the heavy lifting, say, hey, Wayne, you see, this is what you should do. You should lift like that. And then I say, oh, okay. But I never lived, At the end of the day, who's going to grow? Who's going to develop? My personal trainer.
True, it's true. You will lose 10 kilos.
Yeah, he'll look fitter, he'll look buff, And then I say, hey, bloody hell, I signed up for this, but I didn't do the work. So I think for coaching to really have its benefit, just like everything else, right? The individual has to be willing to do the heavy lifting.
And I wanted to say, so that's one big category of people, right? So if you're not going in to want to do the work, then
Yeah.
probably coaching is not for you. Right? I mean, if you're not going to work on your personal growth, going to work on yourself as a person, then like don't bother. Are there
Well,
other areas in
if I
your...
can interrupt you. So
Yeah, you're not gonna disagree with me. Come on.
some people may start with that premise. And I think one of the role of coaching someone is to help them to explore their mindset, their thinking. And perhaps as part of that initial conversation, there might be something in there that triggers that individual to decide that, yeah, I think it's time to do the heavy lifting. Then it's going to take a turn, right? But until that decision is made, and that decision could have been made before they came in, it could be made somewhere in between. I've had sessions with coaches where we have finished whatever we have contracted to do. And a few months after we finish, they drop me a message to say this is what they have decided to do, this is what they've tried, and they found some benefits. But it didn't happen during our coaching session. It happened after. Because for different people, it takes different amount of time, I guess, for it to resonate with them. Everything comes in their own time.
Okay. And do you think, what do you think about the idea that you have to be fundamentally kind of mentally healthy to get a coach? Whereas if you are, okay, I don't want to say certifiably insane, but if you have really poor mental health, then a coach should probably not be the person you are looking for. I mean, what do you say to that?
Well, I'm not clinically trained, so I'm not even sure if I can offer any opinion on that. But if you ask me as a coach, and if someone comes in with certain conditions that I feel might be inhibiting them in having those conversations and exploration and making sound decisions for themselves, then I would probably prefer to refer them to someone else who might be able to help them better.
So have you actually met people who are like, you look at them and you're like, okay, I don't think that, I think the mental health is so poor that they should move on. Be referred. I shouldn't say move on. They should be referred. Yes.
I actually have. Although I don't know whether the condition was ever confirmed. Okay. I actually worked with someone. Actually, it was kind of confirmed. So okay, so let me give the backstory. So after working with that person for a while, something didn't feel right, lah. Okay, and later when I checked with the organization, and that person also shared with me, that person's child was autistic. Okay, and there was a suspicion that perhaps he might also be autistic. Although in our conversations, again, I'm not clinically trained, so I'll take all this with a pinch of salt. I would say he's what one might call a high functioning. Right? So he was able to function, but it seemed like there were some of those traits. Was I able to help him make any progress? I think he did make some progress, but I think his condition or suspected condition might have prevented it from being even greater progress. So I have had that experience where I felt it did kind of get in the way. So maybe it depends on what that condition is. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I actually, I'm not sure whether you feel that way, but I think that there are quite a large group of people who, I mean, may not have very serious mental health conditions, but could be, probably anxious, maybe burnt out, who are very reluctant to go and approach a therapist, and therefore are kind of using coaching as a, I don't know what the word, cop out, like, oh, I don't want to go and see a therapist. I don't want to see I might need medication. I don't want to see a psychiatrist, right? So then I go and see a coach. Because not so bad if I say I see executive coach,
So you're talking about the stigma, is it?
Yeah, correct. And I don't know whether in those situations you feel that we will be able to help them out at all, or do you think that no, these people, if they need a therapist, they really need a therapist? So I think probably the most common one we are seeing right now is burnout, right? So there's almost mental, emotional exhaustion, sometimes coupled with anxiety disorders or even mild depression. Those are the what I can see the most common one right now. So if in these situations where, I mean, I'm not like, say insane enough to be hearing voices or jumping out the window.
Okay.
I mean, there are levels of mental disorders, right?
Yes.
I mean, I'm not the one that's going to be taking a knife and running down the streets trying to chop somebody. But I really probably should be on medication, or would do better on medication. But because there's so much stigma, I mean, let's be blunt. There's hardly a country in the world where mental health disorders are not stigmatized. I mean, I'm hard pressed to think of a single country in the world where that happened. And so then they say, okay, then I go to see a coach. What do you think? Does it help them, or do you think?
Okay, so I've got two thoughts in response to the situation that you put on the table, right? If the stigma of seeking help is one that is so negatively stigmatized that they don't want to go down. So you mentioned therapists. So they say, oh, no, I really don't want to see a therapist because the label is so negative. And if they are okay with seeing a coach because the label is not so negative, I would say that's at least a step in seeking help than not seeking help. At least it's better than not seeking help, right? So talking it through. And then when it comes to that conversation, I think there needs to be discernment of how much a coach can help. And you mentioned that spectrum of maybe stress, anxiety, depression, So I think we need to be cognizant of our own boundaries. If it's burnout, what is that burnout due to? Are there things that could benefit you from talking to a coach? Yes. But if the reasons for the burnout are maybe further up that scale, then maybe it's that time that, the coach should say, And maybe in that conversation, the person now feels a little bit more comfortable to then seek the help that they really need. So they come to a halfway house first. Right?
I wanted to, I mean, like, if I'm just going to recap, I think what you basically said is like two things, right? One is at least they are having help seeking behaviors, right? Rather than keeping it all to myself and then perhaps doing something very drastic, right? So at least it's help seeking behavior. And on if that stigma is really a big problem for them, then actually the coach can help in terms of changing their mindsets about that stigma and getting the help that they truly need, right? So those are two things that
hopefully,
hopefully. But at least I think that's probably as a coach, I wouldn't say that I can help with like maybe depression or with psychosis, but
No.
if it is it's definitely not, right? But what it is that if the issue is more that I feel so stigmatized by these things that I can't even go and seek proper help, then I think that's at least something that a coach can help with, right? So that you can get to the point of actually seeking the help that they need. So that's something I think I agree with you.
And to your point, even just talking about maybe why the person is so resistant to seeking help from those professionals, and just talking about it
Mm.
might unearth a different perspective where maybe the stigma is in the mind. So just exploring what is in the mind and what may be reality or the extent of the stigma. And maybe through that conversation, the person might feel, you know, actually it's not as bad as I felt it was lah. So maybe going to a person, a therapist and all that, while initially I was saying, no way, man, now talking through it, maybe, yeah, it's still not desirable, but I can see how it is in the right direction. And maybe the stigma that I felt was very much more in my mind rather than in reality. So just at least talking about it, rather than you just churning your own thoughts.
And actually, beyond that, right? Have you met people who's like had suffered perhaps severe abuse as a child, and then come to you and they go like, ah, yeah, but this has all happened in the past already. So actually, I don't need any help for that, And no, I've like overcome all of these. I'm totally fine. And have you met people like that? And what is your opinion? I mean, do you think that they still need help for past traumas, or you think, okay lah, never mind, let's work on your current problem right now and let's not talk about your career?
Not to that extent, where there was abuse or anything, but sometimes during our conversation, I might have a thought about where is this coming from. So I explored it, that a little bit. I mean, take case in point. There's a particular coachee that I'm working with right now, talking about how she has a certain mental model of the world and what is expected of her. So I just asked her, do you mind if I ask you something a little bit more personal? Asked her about her family upbringing, family life, and she shared that, and then she did exactly what you said. You said, yeah, but that's all behind me now. So I said, okay, so I'll take her word for it. We move on, and then we'll see what happens as we continue to talk about it. Right? If some of these things resurface, then I think it's just for me to mirror it back to the person and say, I seem to be hearing this again. I seem to be seeing this again. So I know you did tell me that you kind of sorted it through, but so do you want to talk about that? Yeah. So again, it's that space of trust, right? It's that space of respect. If you say you've sorted it out, I'll take your word for it. You've sorted it out. I won't press you for it. And let's progress with our conversation and see where that goes.
Actually, I want to throw another question at you. More than $1 million question.
The
So far we talk about.
The answer is 42.
42. 42.
Yeah.
You're 42 this year, is it? That's why Wah Yuen, you are the guru of the answer.
I'm a little bit beyond 42, actually.
But I wanted to say this. Somehow we have all been talking about clients that want to do coaching, come and do coaching and so on.
Yeah.
But there is a real sizable portion of people who are going to coaching because their boss says you need coaching. This is especially true of performance coaching, right? Or even sometimes it's not framed in such a negative way. Sometimes it's that, hey, I think you are a high potential person, or perhaps you're a senior leader, and now the company has assigned an executive coach to you, right? Obviously, the latter is more positive than the former. But is it necessary that a person want to do coaching themselves, or is it like, what happens if I'm only being coached under duress, or I'm getting it as a service, kind of as a reward of my position, but actually I don't really feel there's a real need? Is it even helpful in those situations?
Well, the quick response is it's always ideal if it comes from the coachee. Right? So, to your question, I had this coachee where at the end of working with him for how long was it? I think it was either 6 or 9 months. At the end, we kind of wrapped it up, asked him how he felt, and he shared with me. He said, when he first started this, so yes, it was something that was assigned to him from the organization. So he said, okay, you assigned to me, I take it up now. He shared with me that he started it with a lot of skepticism. He said, well, how is this going to help? But since the company said, okay, I'll just go along for the ride now. Yeah. But maybe it was because while he came in with skepticism, perhaps he was still open to exploring. And I think he was. And just to share a case in point, some of the things that we talked about, which was to help him engage his team better, which was what he wanted to work on. Okay, so we talked about some micro skills and all that, simple things like listening, asking for people's input, and so on. A few sessions later, he came back and he said, it's worked wonderful with his team, which surprised him. Okay. I said, okay. Then he said, okay, wait, before we move on to that, he also shared with me, it also worked with his relationship with his daughter. Okay. I said, tell me a little bit more about what happened. So he said, I used the same skills of asking questions, listening to their point of view, being empathetic, and the relationship with the daughter improved so much. Yeah. So perhaps maybe that was his turning point, right? And then he found, wow, this has real value because he put in the hard work. He was willing to do the heavy lifting.
But I guess the point, related to your point is this, right? If like that, then we can just send them to a training session where they can learn the skills and be trained in the skills of doing A, B, or C, right? Asking questions and so on, right?
Yeah.
So why coach, right? My training has been around for what, decades?
Yeah, and how useful has it been?
But a coach, will a coach train the coachee?
Well,
will you train them in micro listening, in
technically, no, right? But there are occasions where you might share with them some of these micro skills. So what's the difference between training and coaching? Going back to the gym example, training is like I go to the gym for 2 days. They show me all the exercises. I try it out. And then 2 days finish. Trial membership, right? I try it out for 2 days, 3 days, 1 week. And the training is over. Now it's all up to the individual to decide and to have that drive to continue using the skills and refining the skills that they have learned during that trial gym workshop. And if they do, wonderful, you have progress. So the difference with coaching, and we know coaching is for a longer term, whether it's a month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, whatever it is. And I think it's that longevity that creates and continues that. So I think and I see many of the organizations that I'm working with bringing in coaching in conjunction with training that's happening. So they use the training as a jump-off point, right? In the training, we equip you with the skills, and then use coaching to practice and to sustain. It's habit formation, and we know habit formation takes time. So that's where coaching comes in, to work with the individual and say, hey, our last session 2 weeks ago, you said you were going to work on this. So what has happened since the last time? No, I didn't have time to work on it. I said, okay, so where do you want to take this?
Just now it was a paid friend. Now it's like a paid mother, right? Someone to net you. Oh, in your case, a paid father, right? Not a paid mother. Someone to net you, right? Hey, last week you said do. Did you do or not? Did you do your homework?
Yeah. So, so what do you want? Yeah. Do you want to come in every session telling me, no, I didn't do? Yeah.
I think since we're talking about coaches that are assigned by organizations, right, have you had experience with performance coaching where you are assigned to somebody because they're performing very poorly at work, and the organization basically says go there and turn the performance around?
Fix it, is it?
Yeah, fix it. Like go there and fix this employee who is performing poorly.
I have. and I've rejected those. I've rejected those opportunities
Okay.
because in my mind, the person that's responsible for fixing performance is the manager.
Okay.
So if anyone needs coaching, it's the manager.
Okay. Okay. I mean, that's a thought. I've never thought of it that way. So if you're a business leader, you're listening to this, right? If you want to do performance coaching, then think about it, right? Perhaps it is the manager who needs to be coached to manage that performance,
Yeah.
or
So
even to, have that exit conversation if necessary.
yeah. So what I would offer, while I reject coaching the individual, I will offer perhaps what I can do is work with your manager on how to have that conversation with their staff and how to coach them and put together plans to either help them transit out, or perhaps there is an opportunity to help them to grow and to fix themselves,
The other thing that often comes up with coaching for organizations is that organizations want to know what has happened. In a way, it's almost like training, right? I want to know what is the syllabus that you will be training my staff on during training, and even perhaps the line manager or the HR person may sit in for the first round of training. So, have you had these kinds of requests, like tell me what has gone on in that coaching session? For those of you who have never coached before, been coached before, or have been a coach before, confidentiality in coaching is very is one of the big principles, right? So we
it's a
don't.
big thing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
So my response to organizations who request for that is, I can give you feedback on whether I think the coaching is moving in the right direction. I cannot give specifics on what is being discussed in the coaching, because going back to your point, and what we talked about very early on, the foundations of a coaching relationship is trust, respect. So I need to trust that what we talk does not go to people whom I fear may be judging me, because then I'm not going to say anything. So I think those are crucial elements. And in my first session with coaches, not even first session, in my chemistry session with coaches, I will always say, what I will report back is if you tell me that you're going to do something unethical or illegal, then I am going to report back to the organization, because I think that's my ethical responsibility.
Have you had organizations try to control the conversation to only focus on work issues? Because I think the nature of a coaching conversation. It's just like if you are with a really good friend, right? Sometimes you will talk about work, but it goes to family, it goes to perhaps your own personal views, then it goes back to work again, and that conversation flows that way, right? So have you had organizations say no, I know, like don't let them talk about their family, don't let them talk about their non-work related stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's fair, right? The company's paying for this, and I think it's fair. What I will put on the table is, I can understand that. My question would be, so if the coachee comes in and says that what's happening at home is affecting his or her work performance, should I explore that with the coachee? So there needs to be a linkage back. If it's impacting the work, more often than not, the organization, well, of course, if it's impacting, then, you need to talk about it. I say, okay. So we just need to make those boundaries very clear.
And I think, really, if you think about it that way, right, is it, as a coach yourself, I mean, do you feel that it is beneficial for an organization to assign coaches to employees? Because we talk about a whole plethora of different things, right? I mean, the fact that they may not be willing, the fact that they may not see a need themselves, right? I have certainly had, managers turn up to coaching conversion going like, I was asked to come here because, this has been assigned to me, but actually I got no problem. I also don't know what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I got no problem. I don't know what I want to talk about, right?
Well, then it's not, I mean, and perhaps that is the lens in which people view coaching, right? It's to fix a problem. So that's usually where we have the conversation and say, well, it's great. You don't have a problem, right? So everything's going fine. So if we look forward, we look ahead, are there some aspirations that you have? Are there some goals or wanting to be even better and bigger than where you are right now that you might want to explore? Right? So we kind of shift in that direction. But going back to your point where we never like prisoners, right? Because it's just gonna be a waste of time sitting there having that conversation. And sometimes if it goes on for a period of time, I would reflect that back to the coachee, and I would actually ask the person, are you getting any benefit out of this? And if you're not, perhaps you might want to let your organization know.
1 hour offer to chit chat, right?
Yeah. And if the person said, yeah, actually I'm not getting it, but at least it's an hour away from my emails, I have someone to talk to, and say, is that helping you? Yeah, it just helps me to de-stress. At least I got 1 hour, quiet time or something. I said, so if you find it helpful, then we carry on now.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah. But I guess like business leaders or just basically HR people who are listening to this, right? I mean, I think the intent is often good, right? I mean, the intent is, even in the case of performance coaching, right? Rather than we just kick this person off, let us assign him a coach, see if he can improve, do better, then at least he won't lose his job, right? So I think the intent is often good,
Yeah.
but in terms of like what would you say are the best practices, right? If I'm an organization and I want to assign a coach to somebody, what are some things I should bear in mind?
I think this kind of goes back to your point about the stigma, right? And why is it that currently we see a huge wave of interest in coaching? I think in the past, coaching also had a stigma because it was very often brought in to deal with performance issues. And it set a pattern, it set a precedence. So in an organization, when people see that being done, they will just project into the future and say, oh, whenever someone got a coach, that means got a problem. There's a performance issue. But now what we are seeing is that organizations are tying it into high potential programs, training programs, offering people who are successful. So now the association is coaching is being given to people who are successful, who are on the rise. So if I get a coach, that means I'm part of that group. Why wouldn't I want to be? Why would I want to say, no, I don't want to be part of this? So I think it's that whole positioning that has changed. And that has, that's why maybe now people are more willing to go to a coach than to a therapist. In the past, maybe they were put in the same bucket, right?
Yeah.
Coach is
Correct.
just another name for therapist. Coach is just another name for counselor. That means I got problem.
Right.
I don't want to be labeled with having a problem,
But when you look at it that way, right, does it make sense to ask employees whether or not they want to be on a coaching program? I mean, I've explored this with some HR, and the feedback was the people who really need it all say don't want. The people who don't actually need it want.
Well, not as drastic as that.
No, I mean this is what the HR say half in jest, but
I know.
yeah.
And I know where they are coming from as well. So remember the example I shared about this person who shared with me, he was really skeptical at the beginning. If he had a choice, if he was offered it, he wouldn't have taken it up. So he was assigned to it, and in the process, his skepticism waned, but only because he tasted it. It's like you have an aversion to durian, let's say. I say, oh, everyone says it's terrible. Everyone says it's terrible. I really don't want to try. Who knows? Maybe when you try, you say, actually, it's not that bad. Actually, it tastes quite good. Yeah. So I know I guess it's a toss up, right? Maybe it's not one or the other. Maybe it's both. You offer it as well as assign it to certain cohorts or groups of people that you're trying to grow and develop. And I think we just want to expand it beyond performance. I mean, with all this recent talk about well-being and holistic and whole person. We know how much our private selves affect our professional selves, and just expanding that scope and saying, are there things we can help our employees with to help them manage the stuff better on a professional front?
I would actually say that's worse, right? Because
Worse.
previously, it's worse because previously, if I was assigned a coach, it meant I wasn't doing well at work. Now, if
Yeah.
I was assigned a coach, it means I, mentally
No,
not sound
no,
anymore.
it's not. That's why it's offering to people, right? It's telling people that here's a resource. If you feel that it will be helpful, here is like all the EAP programs, right? Employee assistance programs. It's there because organizations now realize that they need to help the employee as a whole person. So it's there. There's no stigma about it. Whenever you need, the company is taking care of this. So I feel it's kind of going down in that direction.
Fair enough. I worry, I guess, because for somebody who actually straddles both areas, right? I do a lot of workplace health work, and then I'm also a coach. I worry that once that merges, obviously what you're painting is the ideal picture, right? I mean, there's this destigmatization of getting a help, right? A way of getting real therapy without actually going through the stigma. But
Not
then
real therapy. It's not therapy.
no. But what I mean is, it's an almost like a first step, right? It's like what we said
Yeah,
earlier on.
lah.
I mean, I
Just
won't
reaching
say
out
that
for
this
help.
is actually therapy, but this is the first step, right? I mean, you take this step, then you go for an EAP, then perhaps you get referred to a psychologist. I mean, it is a step, right? But the converse can also be true, right? Which is that the stigma around mental health get then stuck to coaching, and now people go like, oh, if I need a coach, that means I am mentally unsound, or I have a mental health issue, or I'm burnt out, or whatever it is, right? And I think even to kind of admit that I am burnt out and I need help is a problem for some, right? Never mind more serious mental conditions.
Yeah.
And the last thing I wanted to also ask is a lot of people, right, are kind of going, okay, so we need a coaching culture. All my leaders need to become coaches. How wise is that? I mean, is that something you think that's the ideal going forward? Or
Well, I'll ask the reverse question. What would be the downside of that?
I will give you the downside. We don't have any job anymore. So as professional coaches, we are out of the market because every single leader is now a coach. Then they don't need to hire professional coaches.
I would
I mean,
applaud that. I would
really?
applaud that. Yeah, I would
Okay.
applaud that. Because what's the goal of us even coaching people? Is so that people are empowered, right? And if they can get that from their manager or whoever else, or their best friend, or their spouse, or their husband, or their kids, wonderful. Why do they need us? It's perfectly fine, right? Because that's the goal, for people to find their own way. And going back to your earlier point, it's so sad that they can't even share this with their loved ones. So if we can help them to feel safe, and if the loved ones or best friends can offer them the same value that they are getting from a professional coach, go to your best friend. Why not? Go to your wife, go to your husband, go to your manager, because now they can interact with you in a way that is going to help you to grow.
I think this is it depends on who you're looking at, right? Because I have been asked to bring coaching culture into organization. I do a lot of culture change work.
Yeah.
And I talk to these managers and they're like, have you seen what's on my plate already?
Yes.
And now you are throwing one more thing to us, right? Now we have to be a leader as coach on top of everything else. Then unless what about my targets? What about my all the other operational stuff that I have to keep going?
Yeah.
So I guess that's the other side of it, right? Which is when you ask this of the leaders or managers, especially if they are already overworked, as many of them are right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you say, I want you to do one more thing, right? It's not their core. It's not their core duties. Will it be done well? will it be even focused on, or will it be done persistently, right? Because if I have to have an hour's coaching conversation with each member of my team and there's a deadline looming, right, what's going to happen? Will those
So that's
conversations still
so
be
that's the
happening?
interesting piece, right? They say it's not their core. Why isn't it their core? And why does it need to take an hour? It can happen in 2 minutes. It can happen in 3 minutes. It can be on the fly. It can be weaved into their daily work. It doesn't have to be a separate responsibility that they need to do now. Oh, you need to carve out 1 hour for my stuff. You don't need to. Once you have those conversations, I've had conversations with people and friends, right? So I wasn't even wearing the hat of coach. They asked me something, and in one sentence, in 2 minutes, they say, "Wow, thank you very much. That was really helpful." It doesn't need an hour.
So for those who are looking to implement this kind of coaching culture to all of their managers, all of their organization, what are some best practices that you can suggest?
I'm very adverse to best practices because it works for some, it doesn't work. I guess my question is, if an organization wants to implement coaching culture, my question would be, what is it they expect it to look like? Okay, but different people have a different interpretation of what that coaching culture is. Like you said, some organizations, oh, coaching culture means they will set aside 1 hour each month for each staff to have that coaching conversation, just like what they would have with an executive coach. But it doesn't need to be. We must remember that these are managers taking a coaching approach to working with their staff, making it collaborative, helping them to think through the issues. That can be done in the flow of work. It doesn't need to be set aside. Actually, if I say set aside, if you want to set aside, it's counterproductive, right? Because it doesn't become part of their work. So in order for that culture to really happen, it's got to be embedded into their work in terms of setting performance goals, in terms of monitoring execution, in terms of reporting, in terms of everything that they do. Think like a coach. It's not about me telling and guiding people what to do and setting the expectation. It's helping me empower them and getting them to perform at their best. I should be doing that every day as a manager. It's not over and above what I do.
Well, I guess we are coming back full circle, right? When we start off with what's the definition of coaching, and we come back full circle, which is like, you are really talking about not managers stepping into the role of a professional coach, but really
No.
managers taking on the coaching mindset, the coaching attitude, the coaching mentality, right? So again, I will ask you this, right? So what is, like, I mean, if you want to define it, right, what is this coaching mindset or mentality or attitude that you think?
The first thought that comes to my mind, especially in the context of managers shifting or adopting this coaching mindset, is probably one of maybe letting go is the wrong word, but that's the one that comes to my mind. Kind of letting go of this idea that a manager is about control. A manager is about managing, right? It may not be. A manager, the role of the manager may be to empower and to facilitate the work that people are doing and not about managing. Otherwise, they are really like keeping a hawk eye on people, making sure things get done. That's not going to help people build confidence, capability, and grow. That's going to make people very risk averse. They're afraid that people's going to jump on them at any point in time. They're doing things because they know people are watching, not because they feel that that's the right thing to do. Those are the first things that come to my mind.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're slightly over the hour actually, so I kind of want to ask you, right? If there is one thing that you want people to walk away with, right? One idea about coaching or even coaches in general, what they can do for the organization. Like, what is your? You said you don't want to do sound bites, right? Sorry. So, what is your one sound bite that you want to leave us with?
Wow. Love people. You want a soundbite? I give you a soundbite. I love people.
Like that only.
Like that
I
only.
was thinking 30
Like that
seconds.
only.
30
No
seconds
lah.
clip. I can clip
Okay
and then
lah.
put on Twitter.
So let me elaborate on that. I think love people in the sense that you, again, going back to what I said earlier, is that respect, it's that trust, that care for them. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what coaching is all about, right? Because we want people to grow. And if there's any way that we can facilitate and help them on that journey, that's what it is. And in order to do that, I have to care about people. Otherwise, why would I want to help people to grow? So you need to care about people.
All right. So thank you very much. Thank you today for your time, Wah Yuen. Thank you for all your wisdom, for sharing with us
42.
answer. Yes, the answer to the great question of life, the universe, and everything. And if any of you, right, would also need the answer, like myself, of the life, your universe, and everything, you can get in touch with Wah Yuen. This is his LinkedIn. Please do get in touch with him. You can find out a little bit more about his work and what he does. He also does a lot of work in organizational development, so that's another area as well. And next week, I'm going to have Hilton come by. Hilton wants to tell me that marketers should care more about organizational culture than they do. They should really care, right? Which is, I can tell you quite honestly, I've been like, my background is all in HR. We do a lot of organizational culture work, and I'm like, these marketers, right? They want to take our job, right? Like, why are they taking our job? But that's why he's coming over to talk to us. So next week on Thursday again, I'll see all of you guys. All right. So thank you so much, Ryan. I really
Thank you,
appreciate your time,
Serene.
and all of you have joined
Thank
me
you.
today. Bye.